Jax's revenge domain.
You know something's about to go sideways when Sarah Mitchell, our 28-year-old CEO, replaces the coffee machine in the break room with a kombucha dispenser and calls it hydration optimization. When she started talking about digital transformation during our Monday morning production meeting, I could hear the CNC machines in Bay 3 running 200 RPM over spec. That grinding sound meant trouble, but not the kind she was about to create. I'm Mason Carter, 46 years old, and I've been running operations at Great Plains Manufacturing for 15 years. Before that, I spent 8 years in the Navy working on ship electrical systems. You learn real quick that when something breaks at sea, you better know how to fix it with what's in your toolbox. No calling tech support when you're 500 miles from shore. Sarah was standing at the front of the break room wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment, holding her tablet like it contained the secrets of the universe. The smell of that kombucha mixed with the machine oil from the floor made my stomach turn. "Team," she said, and I could already tell this wasn't going to be good. We're pivoting toward full automation integration. The manufacturing landscape is evolving, and our current processes are creating inefficiencies in our operational throughput. I took a sip from my thermos. Same one I'd been using for 12 years. The coffee was still hot, which meant the day shift was running on schedule. Unlike this meeting. "What exactly does that mean, Sarah?" I asked, setting the thermos down on the table with a deliberate thunk. "It means we're implementing smart manufacturing protocols, AI-driven quality control, predictive maintenance algorithms, and real-time optimization across all production lines." She swiped at her tablet like she was conducting an orchestra. "Your management style, Mason, feels very legacy-focused. It's not syncing with our digital evolution." Legacy-focused? I stared at her for a moment. The plant behind us was humming with 25 production lines running at 87% efficiency. We hadn't missed a delivery deadline in 18 months. Our scrap rate was 0.3% below industry standard. But apparently that was legacy thinking. "You firing me, Sarah?" "It's not termination," she corrected, her voice taking on that rehearsed tone they probably taught in her online MBA program. "It's a strategic realignment. We need someone who can embrace technological integration without resistance to change." I looked at the clock on the wall, 1:20 p.m. The afternoon quality sync was scheduled to run at 1:35. That sync required my biometric authorization to verify the production parameters. Without it, the safety protocols would assume a security breach and shut down every line in the plant. "All right," I said, standing up. "You want change? You got it." I didn't slam anything, didn't raise my voice. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out my security badge, and slid it across the table toward her. The badge had level 4 clearance, higher than hers. "You've got 15 minutes, I said. Sarah looked confused. 15 minutes for what? "To figure out how to run this place without me." The thing about manufacturing systems is they're built on layers. You've got your basic machinery, then your control systems, then your safety protocols, then your quality assurance. Each layer depends on the one below it. Pull out the wrong piece, and the whole thing comes apart like a house of cards in a hurricane. "The system will automatically lock down at 1:35 if I don't authorize the quality sync," I explained, walking toward the door. "When that happens, every production line stops. Not pauses, stops. The conveyor belts lock, the CNC machines go into safe mode, and the assembly robots park themselves." Sarah laughed, but it sounded nervous. "The IT team said everything's cloud-based now. We can override any legacy restrictions." The IT team? 2 guys she'd hired because they had certificates in something called Industrial IO2. Good luck with that. I walked through the plant floor one last time, past the stamping presses that could turn sheet metal into precision parts in 12 seconds, past the welding stations where sparks flew in controlled arcs, past the assembly line where workers I'd trained were putting together products that would last 20 years. The sound of the machinery was music to me. The rhythmic thump of the hydraulic presses, the whir of the conveyor motors, the steady hiss of the pneumatic tools. After 15 years, I knew every sound this place made. I could walk through here blindfolded and tell you which machine needed maintenance just by listening. My phone buzzed as I reached the parking lot. 1:36 p.m., right on schedule. System alert, quality sync authorization missing, production line 1 entering safe mode. I lit up a cigarette. Yeah, I know, bad habit. But after breathing metal dust and solvent fumes for 15 years, tobacco's the least of my worries. I leaned against my truck and watched the loading dock. In about 30 seconds, the forklifts would stop moving. The drivers would start looking around, confused. My phone buzzed again, then again. The group chat was lighting up. Cole Anderson, our systems tech. Why are the robots parking themselves? Michelle Torres, QC manager. Dashboard showing 0 active production. Is this a drill? Shane Foster. Night supervisor, day shift lines all showing emergency stop. What's happening? I took another drag and looked up at the office windows on the second floor. Sarah was probably staring at screens full of red warning lights about now. The real-time production dashboard she'd installed last month was about to become very educational. Here's what she didn't understand. Those smart manufacturing protocols she wanted, they were already running, had been for 3 years. But they weren't controlled by some cloud-based AI system. They were controlled by custom scripts I'd written, running on servers in the basement that were older than her college degree. The quality sync wasn't just checking measurements. It was the heartbeat of the entire operation. Every 90 minutes, it verified that all machines were running within tolerance. All safety systems were active, and all production parameters were green. Miss that sync, and the system assumed something catastrophic had happened. My phone rang. Sarah Mitchell, CEO. I let it ring, let them sweat a little. The thing about 25 production lines suddenly stopping is it creates a domino effect. Raw materials back up at receiving, finished goods can't move to shipping. Customer orders that were supposed to ship today are now sitting on dead conveyor belts. And the automated scheduling system, seeing zero production capacity, starts pushing everything to tomorrow, then next week, then next month. I finished my cigarette and got in my truck. I had one stop to make before this was over. The drive to Wade Phillips' place took 20 minutes, long enough for my phone to buzz 47 times with increasingly desperate messages, long enough for Sarah to discover that rebooting the servers wouldn't help, long enough for the first customer to call asking where their order was. Wade's house sat on 15 acres outside town. Not fancy, just solid. Like everything he'd ever built, his workshop was bigger than most people's garages, filled with tools that actually got used. I found him at his workbench, rebuilding a carburetor from a '72 Chevelle. "Shouldn't you be at work?" he asked without looking up. Wade Phillips was 72 years old and could still outwork most guys half his age. "Got realigned," I said. "My operational frequency didn't match their digital evolution." Wade set down his wrench and looked at me, really looked at me. We'd been through this dance before, 8 years ago, when the previous CEO tried to outsource production to Mexico. That didn't end well for the CEO. "Sarah?" he asked. "Yep." Wade wiped his hands on a shop rag. "What's the damage?" "Full plant shutdown. 25 lines down. Quality sync locked out. Probably cost them 200 grand in the first hour alone." Wade reached for a bottle of bourbon sitting on his workbench. Good stuff, the kind you sip, not gulp. He poured 2 glasses and slid one across to me. She knew what she did. Starting to figure it out, Wade's phone rang. The old rotary phone he kept in the workshop because he said it was the only one that worked when the power went out. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Phillips." I could hear shouting from the other end of the line. Multiple voices all talking at once. Wade held the phone away from his ear and winked at me. "Slow down, Brett," Wade said into the phone. "What's that?" "The plant's shut down. How's that possible?" He was grinning like a cat that had found the canary cage unlocked. Brett Coleman was the board chairman. Nice enough guy, but he understood manufacturing about as well as I understood quantum physics. "Now, Brett," Wade continued, "I told you when I stepped back that operations was Mason's department. You don't mess with operations." A pause. "What do you mean Sarah fired him?" "That girl doesn't have the authority to fire the operations manager." More shouting from the phone. Wade's grin disappeared. "Put me on speaker, Brett. I want to talk to the whole board." He gestured for me to come closer to the phone. "Gentlemen," Wade's voice took on that tone I remembered from when I was learning the ropes. "You've got yourselves a problem. You let my daughter-in-law fire the one man who knows how to run that plant. Mason Carter isn't just an employee. He's the central nervous system of the entire operation. We can bring in consultants." Someone said, "Hire specialists to get the systems back online." Wade laughed. Not a pleasant sound. "Consultants, you think some outsider can walk in and understand 15 years of custom modifications, workarounds, and institutional knowledge? That plant runs on relationships, not just procedures. Mason knows every machine, every operator, every quirk in the system." The silence on the other end was telling. They were starting to understand the magnitude of what Sarah had done. "Every minute those lines are down costs you $3,400, Wade continued. "You want to do the math on how much this little strategic realignment is going to cost. Because I can tell you right now, it's a hell of a lot more than Mason's salary." I could hear papers rustling, urgent whispers. Board members doing damage calculations in real time. "What do you want, Wade?" That was Brett again, his voice smaller now. "I want Mason reinstated." "Not as operations manager, As vice president of operations, full authority over the plant floor. No interference from Sarah or anyone else. Triple his current salary and bring back the people she fired from his team. That's a significant increase in compensation. Brett, Wade said, his voice getting quieter, which somehow made it more dangerous. Every minute those lines are down costs you $3,400. You want to negotiate salary, or you want to get back to making money? Silence from the phone. I could picture them in that boardroom, expensive suits and worried faces, doing the math. 2 hours down already meant $408,000 in lost production. By tomorrow morning, if this kept up, they'd be looking at over $1 million in damages. And one more thing, Wade continued. Sarah gets moved to something she can't break. Marketing, strategic partnerships, whatever makes her feel important, but she doesn't go near operations again. She's family, Wade, so is the company. What's it going to be? More urgent whispering, the sound of someone typing frantically on a laptop. A chair squeaking under stress. We need time to discuss terms. No, Wade cut them off. You need Mason back online in the next hour, or you're going to have 25 production lines sitting idle overnight. You know what that does to your delivery schedules, your customer contracts, your stock price when this hits the news? That got their attention. Nothing scared board members like bad publicity and angry shareholders. Fine, Brett said finally. Draft the contracts. Mason gets VP operations, full plant authority, salary increase as discussed. Sarah moves to strategic development. But Mason has to get those lines running today. Wade looked at me and winked. Mason's 20 minutes away. Have the paperwork ready when he walks in the door. He hung up and poured himself another bourbon. Feels good to remind them who actually runs things around here. You didn't have to do that, I said. Hell, I didn't. I built that company with 60-hour weeks and missed family dinners. Missed your little league games to fix broken equipment on weekends. I'm not about to watch some kid with an online MBA destroy what took 25 years to build. Wade had started Great Plains Manufacturing in 1999 with 2 used lathes and a dream. Worked 7 days a week for the first 5 years, slept on a cot in the office more nights than he slept at home. By the time I joined in 2009, he'd built it into the most reliable metal fabrication plant in 3 states. She means well, I said about Sarah. Just doesn't understand how things actually work. Road to hell, Mason. Road to hell. Wade finished his bourbon and stood up. Come on. Let's go watch you take your company back. The drive back to Great Plains took 25 minutes. Long enough for my phone to stop buzzing with panicked messages and start buzzing with different messages. Lawyers calling about contract details. Accountants wanting to verify salary numbers. HR asking about team reinstatements. The parking lot looked like a disaster zone. Trucks backed up to the highway. Drivers standing around smoking and checking their phones. The second shift had shown up early, confused about why nothing was moving. Supervisors were walking around with clipboards, trying to look busy while everything sat dead. I walked through the plant floor like I owned the place. Which in a way, I guess I did now. The machinery was silent except for the hum of the ventilation system. 25 production lines worth of equipment, sitting idle because one person didn't understand the difference between innovation and destruction. The workers who saw me coming started gathering around. These were people I'd hired, trained, worked alongside for over a decade. They looked relieved to see me. Lines coming back up, Mr. Carter? Asked Tommy Martinez, one of my best press operators. Give me 10 minutes, Tommy. We'll have you back to making parts. Sarah was in the conference room, surrounded by her digital transformation team and half the board. When I walked in with Wade behind me, the room went quiet. Sarah looked like she'd been through a washing machine. Her perfect hair was disheveled, and there were coffee stains on that expensive blazer. Brett Coleman stood up and handed me a folder. Contracts signed. Welcome back, Mason. As Vice President of Operations, I opened the folder and scanned the terms. VP title, $185,000 salary, complete operational autonomy, authority to rehire my team with 20% raises across the board. Everything Wade had negotiated for. System's been down for 3 hours, I said, setting the folder on the table. Cost you about $600,000 in lost production. Another $80,000 in delayed shipments. Customer confidence. That's harder to calculate. Sarah looked up at me, her eyes red from what I assumed was either stress or tears. Maybe both. The board said that we need to. I know what the board said. I walked to the control terminal on the wall. Everybody out except Sarah. The room cleared fast. Even Wade stepped outside, though I could see him grinning through the glass door. Here's how this works, I said, placing my thumb on the biometric scanner. You stay out of operations. Completely. You want to transform something. Go transform the marketing department. Paint the break room purple. Install a meditation corner. I don't care, but the plant floor belongs to me. The scanner beeped. Authorization accepted. The digital transformation. Sarah started to say, is already done. I interrupted. Has been for years. We've got sensors on every machine, predictive maintenance algorithms, real-time quality monitoring. The difference is it's controlled by people who understand manufacturing, not people who understand buzzwords. I typed in my restart sequence, a series of commands I'd written years ago for exactly this situation. System initialization, safety protocol reset, quality parameters restored, production line activation sequence. The plant came alive around us, the distant hum of motors starting up. The whir of conveyor belts beginning to move. The rhythmic thump of the hydraulic presses coming online. Music to my ears. Lines will be back at full production in 30 minutes, I said, finishing the restart procedure. Your job is to stay out of the way and let the adults work. Sarah nodded, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I thought we needed to modernize. Everything I read said traditional manufacturing was dying. I softened my tone a little. She was young, inexperienced, but not malicious. Sarah, we are modernized. We just don't make a big show of it. See that screen? I pointed to the production monitor. That's real-time data from every machine on the floor. Predictive analytics, quality control, efficiency optimization. The works. But it's built by people who understand what we actually do here. She looked at the screen, watching as green indicators started appearing across all 25 production lines. I didn't know. That's the problem. You didn't ask. I picked up my thermos and headed for the door. Stick to marketing. Leave the making to us. Wade was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. How'd she take it? Better than expected. I think she gets it now. Good. Come on, let's go see the magic happen. We walked out onto the plant floor together. The transformation was already underway. Conveyor belts were moving again, carrying parts from station to station. The CNC machines were spinning back to life, their computer-controlled precision turning raw metal into finished components. Workers were returning to their positions, checking their equipment, getting back into rhythm. Tommy Martinez waved from press station 3, looking good, Mr. Carter. Running sweet as honey over here. That's what I like to hear, Tommy. Michelle Torres appeared at my elbow, clipboard in hand. Quality parameters are all green. No damage from the shutdown. We'll be back to full efficiency within the hour. Outstanding. How's the team morale? Through the roof. Word's already spreading that you're back as VP. People are talking about the 20% raises too. She grinned. I think you've got the most loyal workforce in the state now. Over the next few hours, I made my rounds, checking each production line, talking with the operators, making sure everything was running smoothly. Cole Anderson had the computer systems purring like a well-tuned engine. Shane Foster was coordinating with the truck drivers to get shipments back on schedule. By 6 p.m., we'd recovered most of the lost production. Customer orders that should have shipped that morning were loaded and rolling out the door. The automated scheduling system had recalculated everything, and we were back on track for the week. Wade found me in my new office, the VP office with windows overlooking the entire plant floor. He knocked on the doorframe even though the door was open. Mind if an old man comes in. Your company, Wade, always will be. He settled into the chair across from my desk with a grunt, knees acting up. Too many years crawling around under machinery, he looked out the window at the bustling production floor. Sounds good out there. Sounds like how it should. We'll be fine. Better than fine, actually. I'm going to implement that apprenticeship program we talked about. Pair up the experienced guys with the younger ones. Make sure all this knowledge doesn't walk out the door when people retire. Wade nodded approvingly. Smart. What about Sarah? She's finding her place. Marketing could use some fresh ideas, actually. As long as she stays away from operations, we'll get along fine. And you? How does it feel to be VP? I leaned back in my chair and listened to the sounds of the plant. The steady rhythm of production, the hum of machinery, the occasional call from one worker to another. It was the sound of people making things, creating value, doing work that mattered. Feels like where I should have been all along. Wade smiled and stood up. I'm headed home. Martha's making pot roast tonight, and if I'm late, she'll feed it to the dog. He paused at the door. You done good today, Mason. Real good. After he left, I stayed in the office for another hour, watching the second shift take over from the day crew. Smooth transitions, no hiccups, everything running like clockwork. At 7:30, I finally packed up and headed home. 3 months later, Great Plains Manufacturing posted record quarterly profits. The apprenticeship program was in full swing, with 12 experienced workers mentoring the newer hires. We'd landed 2 major contracts, partly because our reputation for reliable delivery had spread to new customers. Sarah had found her groove in marketing and strategic partnerships. She'd stopped trying to revolutionize manufacturing and started focusing on telling the story of what we actually did. Turns out she was pretty good at it when she wasn't trying to fix things that weren't broken. The digital transformation she'd wanted? We did implement some new systems, but gradually with input from the people who actually used them. No revolution, just evolution. The way change should happen. I was walking the plant floor on a Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, when Tommy Martinez called out from his press station. "Hey, Mr. Carter, you hear the news? That new contract came through, the one for the automotive parts. Looks like we're adding a 3rd shift. That's outstanding news, Tommy. Time to start looking for more good people to train." I finished my coffee and looked around at the bustling plant floor. 25 production lines humming along at peak efficiency. Workers who knew their jobs and took pride in their work. A company that valued experience and expertise over buzzwords and disruption. Sometimes the old ways work best. You just have to know when to use them. And more importantly, you have to have the courage to stand up for what works when someone tries to fix what isn't broken. The morning shift was hitting their stride. Another day of making things, solving problems, and proving that experience and knowledge still matter in this world. I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And at the end of the day, that's what real satisfaction looks like. Because at the end of the day, you can't automate experience, and you can't download wisdom.